You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.
Good morning and welcome. What's happening out there? Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas, where it's a little overcast and gray, slightly misty, with the high today of 73 and a low of 60. Under what appears to be moderately saturated chemtrail skies, not today, but over the course of the weekend. What's going on out there? It's Monday. It is the intensity of the Scorpio full moon beaming down upon you. Even if you cannot see it from where you are, or perhaps in some other part of the world where it's a bit darker than it is here now. You might be catching its last rays before it moves on. So we're here to talk about a few things, kind of crack open a can of worms. I suppose the biggest headline that's across my screen, and we're going to talk about a few things today. I'm going to try to do this show in 30 minutes. I got an email from a listener, and he suggested I make the show a little shorter. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to less rambling, more economy. So let's get into it. I think the big story, and there's quite a few. There are quite a few stories that are, crossing our screens right now. I think the biggest, and it has nothing to do with the White House Correspondents Association and the Michelle Wolf lambasting, and I mean utter lambasting, of Sarah Sanders Huckabee. I mean, she got into body shaming, you name it, and she was highly for her spirit of meanness. But unfortunately, this is the world that we're living in now. It's all about the roast, right? The roast, the burn, drop the mic, high five. It's not great. It is kind of like The Dozens meets 10 Minutes of Hate. I'm telling you right now, there is a war between the left and the right, and there are casualties, and they're taking prisoners. No quarter. Tom Brokaw was accused of groping and being inappropriate. It's funny. I was talking about Tom Brokaw the other day. It's the same day. I brought that story up about him popping out of the limo in Atlanta while I was standing on a corner there in front of a cafe having a scone and some tea. Speaking of tea, I didn't have any coffee today. So I'm not sure how the show's going to go. Hopefully you won't notice a difference. So it's like, okay, well, we'll take down Tom Brokaw. That's one for us. You got one of ours. Now we're going to get one of yours. Okay, Joy Reid. We're going to go after Joy Reid. We got the goods on Joy Reid. We got her now. We've got all these dirty, salacious, racist, bigoted tweets and blog posts. We got her. What you got for us? Oh, you're going to go after Sarah Sanders Huckabee. I mean, this is what's going on. if you are a public figure and you're on the left or you're the right, you've got a bullseye on your back. Total bullseye. And it's actually pretty sad to watch. Now, in the case of Joy Reid, she went so far as to say that her account had been hacked. And she reported it to the FBI. That's a pretty serious deal. If you are saying that your Twitter or your whatever account has been hacked and you get the FBI involved and it wasn't hacked, well, I don't know what the FBI does at that point. I mean, I just don't understand what the FBI does anymore except try to entrap people. Because clearly it doesn't it doesn't appear to me that they're involved in any kind of urgent desire or need to bring things to the surface and have justice be served. So we've seen this all weekend. It really started around Thursday. There's massive Twitter wars going on, taking people down, raking their character across the coals. Not good stuff. And it's easy to be caught up in it. And sometimes a little bit of schadenfreude, just, it's like, oh, God, that felt good, right? Look at that motherfucker. He's taking a hit now, isn't he? How'd it feel now, buddy? How'd it feel? That feel good? People set themselves up. They set themselves up for their 10 minutes of hate. Alex Jones is a perfect example. I was watching Alex briefly last night because he had an interview with Paul Joseph Watson, and Alex Jones is close to the edge. I am telling you right now, I would not be surprised if he has a stroke or a heart attack. That guy's BP has got to be through the roof. Whatever they're taking for high blood pressure on InfoWars, I'll bet you Alex Jones is popping it like Skittles. That's what happens. You set yourself up. It happens to me occasionally. I have strong opinions every now and then. I put them out there. Not everybody likes a strong opinion. If it's well and thought through, for the most part, they get it. Sometimes, just as a reflexive action, for whatever reason, they don't. And I'll have to say, I get emails from people that will say, I don't agree with everything you have to say, but I agree with a lot of it. And isn't that how life is? I may not agree with some things with everybody, but hey, there are a lot that I might agree with. Like Ron Paul. I don't agree with everything that's libertarian, but there are some things that are libertarian that I do agree with. Nothing is perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be your spokesperson or your ombudsman across all matters that you can co-sign on, and it's probably again, it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of things I like about David. Reptile thing, maybe not. I actually do believe that there are reptiles, by the way, but they're not as I don't know. I'm not quite sure they're. Maybe David Icke's a reptile too. I mean, I've seen some stuff with David Icke. A little creepy. Takes one to know one, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. But you understand what I'm saying. We can't always agree with everybody. When we do, we give our power away. It's just like, oh yeah, check the box, not the head, check the box, not the head. It doesn't work that way. So if you agree with the majority of what I say and there's some things you don't agree with, that's great. And I respect that, and I'm okay with that. But there's so much else going on right now, and we have these firefights on Twitter. They're just ridiculous, totally ridiculous. If we could basically all take our Twitter angst and direct it towards something meaningful, like maybe chemtrails or 5G, or how about the endless wars and aggression that we're involved in, 7 of them now? 3 big ticket items. You might be able to make a dent on one of those issues or topics. So this crossed my screen this morning. This is kind of a big deal. It's now starting to look suspicious, more than suspicious, about what happened in Broward County at Parkland. Here's the headlines, and it's just crossing my screen right now. I don't have a lot more to it, but second Broward County Sheriff's deputy dead after questioning Parkland shooting official narrative. About that. Second Broward County Sheriff's Department dead after questioning Parkland shooting official narrative. Marshall Peterson, a Broward County deputy sheriff who dared to question the official narrative surrounding the Parkland shooting, has been found dead under suspicious circumstances. He was 53, a 28-year veteran of the Broward Sheriff's Office. Deputy Peterson is the second Broward County Sheriff's deputy to be found dead in sudden and unexpected circumstances in the month following the Parkland massacre. Deputy Jason Fitzsimon, 42, was found dead on his sofa on April 1st. Deputy Peterson is the second Broward County deputy to be found dead within a month. They were both in the prime of their lives, and they died from unspecified, non-job related causes, unless you count questioning the official narrative surrounding a highly publicized school shooting to be a job-related cause. On April 1st, Jason Fitzsimon was found dead on his sofa, according to police. The 42-year-old had been in excellent health prior to his untimely death. But you saw the Jason Fitzsimon photos if you tuned into the show that Randy and myself and Emily did last week. The guy was he was a beast. So now we have another Broward County Sheriff's deputy dead. One is strange. 2 begins to smell a bit like a conspiracy. Now, if you're on the Broward County Sheriff's Department and you just saw those 2 guys fall off the wagon like that, would you start speaking out? These deaths are as much a message to the people that are living as it is to, theoretically, the ones who passed away for questioning the official narrative. I mean, again, 2 is fairly suspicious. And, what is Donald Trump doing with all of this? He's just letting the whole parade and charade go on. But I'll tell you what. I post to David Hogg's feed a lot. And David Hogg's feed is starting to bloom like red algae. There are a lot of people on his Twitter feed that are clogging that feed up. I'm telling you right now. I would say it's about 50-50 now with the Hog man, the Hog boy. It's about 50-50 pro-Hog, anti-Hog. Anti-Hog, that'd be a good name for a band, Anti-Hog. There was a band called Space Hog, who I thought were a bit overrated. They kept comparing them to David Bowie. I kept listening. I'm like, not getting it. Not a bad band. I thought, one of those bands that critics like to fluff up because they really should be good. So that's kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. So we have a lot more happening over in the Middle East. Apparently, Israel has shelled Syria. This happened over the night. And I'll read this to you. This is from the Express, which is a UK paper. Syria military bases have been attacked in the regions of Hama and Aleppo as powerful explosions could be heard across Bashar al-Assad's war-torn nation, state TV has declared. The country's Sana news agency reported explosions have been heard in both cities during a missile strike at 7:30 p.m. GMT on Sunday. Earlier, state TV had detailed blasts were heard in Hama's rural province. Israel newspaper Haaretz has claimed Tel Aviv could be behind the recent incident. The country's defense minister, Avigdor Lieberman, recently emphasized Israel had no intention of interfering in domestic Syrian issues. He stated, "We have no intention to attack Russia, to interfere with Syrian issues. But if somebody thinks that it's possible to launch missiles or to attack Israel or even our aircraft, no doubt we will respond, and we will respond very forcefully." Middle East expert Danny Mackey recently declared conflict in Syria is far from over because the developing risk of escalation between Tel Aviv and Iran. Okay, now they're starting to put a full court press on Iran. He said the airstrikes will continue. A lot of people thought the strikes on the T4 base was a response to the chemical attack, but it wasn't. Israel are terrified of Iran installing air defenses to protect their bases. The Israelis will continue striking these different targets, and there are between 20 to 25 targets to choose from. So we'll play out considerably. Over the next year, I can honestly see that there will be dozens more strikes, even if it reaches the point where Israeli jets are downed. On April 7th, a suspected chemical weapons attack was allegedly carried out in Duma. We all know it's a lie. Total lie. The evidence has been presented. What was the boy's name? Hamid Nassini, the 11-year-old. Didn't he go to the UN or some court in England to state his case? I mean, the Duma attack was a total stage job, and here we are. We're still there. Not only are we still there, but our buddies are now, or not now, they've been doing this for a while, firing missiles. Here we go. This is from Sputnik. Let me read you this story. Several Syrian military bases have been struck by missiles in the Hama and Aleppo provinces. So this story is now starting to make the rounds with the Newswire. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that missile strikes on arms depots in northern Syria had killed 26 servicemen fighting alongside government forces. Most of those killed were Iranians. However, the Iranian Tasnim news agency, cited an unnamed source, has denied the fact that missiles hitting Iran's base in Syria, saying all these reports over attack on an Iranian military base in Syria and the martyrdom of several Iranian military advisors in Syria are baseless. An opposition source told Reuters that an army base which was hit by a missile attack was used as a recruitment center for Iranian-backed militias who fight alongside forces of President Bashar al-Assad. Now, look, if you're Iran, wouldn't you align with Syria? I sure as hell would, because Israel is incredibly aggressive. Like, super aggressive. They're aggressive, and they have the United States on their side, and they have the UK on their side. More often than not, Turkey will be on their side, and Saudi Arabia is clearly on their side. And that's how the war is lining up right now. The US, UK, apparently now France. Do you see the pictures of Trump and Macron together? How weird was that? They're like holding hands and hugging. What is going on there? Some serious between Macron and Trump. Macron's kind of a shrimp, isn't he? He's a tiny man. All right, here's a free association that might get me in trouble. When I was in France, and I love the French. I was born in France. When I was in France, I noticed that the women were very attractive, especially in the South. Very, very attractive. Took great care of themselves. And very nice people in the south of France. Paris, I don't know. I walked around Paris a lot by myself, just taking everything in, not really talking. I don't speak French anyway. But I encountered some nice people in Paris too. And I found that the men all sort of resembled rodents. I'm sorry, it's true. It's true. Like Macron looks like a rodent. Just look at him. He's got a little rodent thing going on. So we have a country of these beautiful French women, and they're rodent men lovers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to be inject a little humor, just a little humor. But look at Macron. And the French love cheese too. Don't rodents love cheese? Don't they like cheese? This might be a bit too far. Anyway, this thing is serious, far from over. Mission accomplished. Yeah, right. Right. If anything, that was, again, a staged event to show that we were tough, not a lot got blown up. We got to use up some crappy missiles, and let's close the chapter and move on. Meanwhile, war is raging. Look, if I was Iran and Syria, I'd join forces too. Because you're dealing with a very aggressive country that is in your region. How long is this thing going to go on? Oh, by the way, aren't they supposed to be opening the embassy in June? And I think Trump is going to that. Now, you know that there's going to be some prophetic stirrings around that stuff. I was sent an email about some information around Mike Pompeo. Oh, heaven help us. We have Mike Pompeo and we have Mike Pence, the two Mikes, which is a theme. It's the duality theme which has been carried out all weekend. The two Mikes, Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo is an apocalyptic Christian. That's his shtick. And when he was the head of the CIA, which didn't last very long, he was very much into, kind of cornering people around faith and hardcore prayer. And look, I have no opposition to that, but religion is a really private thing. It's a private thing. Is taking prayer out of the public schools a bad thing? People say that that's when everything went downhill, is when they took prayer. I never prayed in school. Not in California. We didn't have that. And quite honestly, I'm okay that there isn't prayer in public schools. But if your school wants to pray, if the majority of the kids want to pray, then let them pray. If the culture of the area, like the school across the street from me, I bet you if they said, hey, we're going to pray in public school, you'd probably get about a 75% sign-off from the parents, which would be enough, to be honest with you. So if they wanted to do that, then fine. There's another school that didn't want it. Should be choice. But to mandate, in a professional setting like the CIA, that you're going to go in, you're going to start praying every day with Mike Pompeo as your high priest, I don't think that's a good thing. I really don't think that's a good thing. In as much as, it's so funny because John Brennan, who was head of the CIA before Mike Pompeo, supposedly a converted Muslim. So we went from a converted Muslim to a guy who's a Christian millennialist. And one guy's putting out the rug and bending over and probably trying to convert as many people as possible quietly. And now you've got another guy that's just as extreme. What is up with that? What is Gina Haspel's gig? She's got to come in with something heavy on the Judaic side just to hit that trifecta, right? One day she'll come to work with one of those black cubes on her forehead. Can women wear those black cubes? I've never seen women wear those black cubes. I remember the first time I saw one of those, I was at Findhorn. And there was this nerdy Jewish guy who was visiting Findhorn. And he was very into esoterica and I'm going to take a risk, and I don't know what they call the black box. I want to, wear this today. That was my first, like, that thing on that guy's head. Well, it's the Saturn Hypercube. It's like, putting the Kaaba right on your forehead. You know, I think you wear that and you tune into Saturn more easily. You get the Saturnian downloads. That's what it is. So maybe that's what Gina Haspel will show up with at work of this, and then so then it'll hit the trifecta. Everybody will be happy. The problem is that after that, you get once you get out of those three religions and the extreme versions of each, which all have some kind of hyper aggressive end times, social domination hardwired into them. Then you get into things like Buddhism, Sufism, those second tier kinds of faiths, which are to some degree offshoots of the big three, although Buddhism is its own breed unto itself. You don't really see any aggression from those people. Like you don't see Sufis. The extreme version of the big three is just probably something that we could do without and move on from, to be honest with you. Our life on this planet would be a heck of a lot better because, if you look at the two big ones, right? You've got Christianity and Judaism. And you get into the esoteric branch of Judaism, which is the Chabad Lubavitch stuff, and they're into an apocalypse. They are apocalyptic, and it's through the apocalypse that things are leveled and their Messiah stands, and it is through the testament of their chosen nature that they're the ones left over. Okay, so that is their philosophy. And then you have on the other side, you got the Christians, and the Christian story, the Schofield Bible and the Rapture. Samuel Untermeyer was involved in that, the creation of that. It's end times porn. And and it's like, okay, well, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, and the rapture's about to occur. And when it happens, boy, we're out of here. We're out of here. And they're gonna, what that's like? They're like those people that sit on top of that bluff that overlooks Gaza. And they sit there in their lounge chairs and, with their popcorn and chips and their sodas, watching all the havoc and the melee go down around them as missiles cross over the wall and hit their targets. That's kind of like what the rapture is about. It's the same thing. Get up there, you've got your recliner, your home entertainment set, which is really the earth, and look at that. Look at that. Oh, Jesus, give me 5. High five, Jesus. Yeah, look at that. Oh, man. Can you see what those people are doing to each other? Man, aren't you glad you're up here? Me too. I'm so glad. I know we made it. I know we totally made it. Dude, let's all hug. Give me another diet soda. That's, and then after it's all said and done, it's like, oh, is it time for us to go back now? Can you make sure it's a little bit more cleaner before we go? We don't want to deal with any real messy stuff when we get back. Can you unleash some of those flesh-eating demons that you've saved up for that event? Oh, great. We get to watch that too. The flesh-eating demon stuff. Where do you see this? This is amazing. They'll just clean everything up. Okay, we can go back now. Great. Look at this. 1,000 years of peace. Woo! Yeah, baby! We got it made. Made in the shade. Yeah, they were all kind of working towards that vision. Now, whether or not they pull it off is a whole other thing. That's a lot to do. But clearly they're working pretty hard at it. They're working pretty hard. You know, and that feeds into that whole Pike, Third World War piece and the Pike prophecy, all that goodness. Let's check in with the chat room. Let's see what they got going on this morning. Happy morning. Hey, Maury, what's going on? They got off on revenge. Look at those old Charles Bronson movies, theocratic inroads across the board. All three Abrahamic religions are ultimately nihilistic. Well, I would say yes to a large degree. Well, there's a lot more love in the New Testament, at the very least. At the very least. And I think you have to separate out the Wahhabists and the Salafists. You get into the extreme versions of the big three, and yes, there certainly is some nihilism. I wanted to talk a little bit about this Alfie Evans thing, because it's another example of kind of the world that we're living in today. It's just to, this is not the, Charlie Gard was another young English boy who wound up having to stay in England because that's what the state deemed was appropriate. So this is from Vox, and it's the controversy surrounding the death of British toddler Alfie Evans. Comment explained. Evans was at the heart of a heated UK court battle. Alfie Evans, the terminally ill toddler at the heart of the heated legal battle in the UK, has died almost a year after the controversial case of sick child Charlie Gard rocked the UK. Evans' case galvanized the nation and the world. Alfie Evans was a nearly 2-year-old British child with a mysterious terminal degenerative neurological condition. Against his parents' wishes, the hospital where he was receiving care withdrew life support. Okay, against the parents' wishes. The hospital, there you go. His parents were barred by British courts from seeking care for Alfie elsewhere. The case attracted outside media attention in the UK and internationally. Figures ranging from U.S. Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee to Pope Francis have weighed in. A Facebook group supporting continued medical care for Alfie. Alfie's Army has almost 500,000 members. The debate over Evans became a heated battle about much wider issues, tying into a number of hot-button topics and cultural anxieties. In America, in particular, conservatives have used the Alfie Evans case as a rallying cry to condemn socialized medicine and government intervention more broadly. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to set you straight. This is something that you're not going to like. The government owns you. You're owned. It's true. You're owned. You're owned. From the time you come into this world, and those capital letters are on your birth certificate, you're owned. And if you play along nicely and you follow the path of Saturn, you'll get through. If you conform, you'll get through. If you don't conform and want to do something, for the most part, outside the system, guess what? You will be bitch slapped. And there are enough legal hooks that bring you into the system to the extent that you're not even your own person. You're owned. I'm just telling you right now. And your kids are owned too, for that matter. They are. Absolutely. We got a bit more leeway here in the States. How much longer that exists, not sure. But unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with here. And a lot of people have tried and gone through reclaiming their name and doing that whole trip, but there are a lot of casualties along the way. A lot. It almost feels like it's better to be a Jedi and just be invisible than go directly head on into that system. Now, some people have been successful and they've been left alone for a long period of time. I think it has to do with your attitude. I was talking with a friend about this last night. I think that, for better or worse, a confrontational attitude evokes confrontation. That's just the way it is. Now, can you be committed to the unfoldment of deeper truth and understanding and peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing what's going on in the world without being confrontational? I think the answer is yes, and it's probably about the only unassailable position that we have. And that takes a lot of work. You have to take the charge off of stuff, but it also, you have to be, how do I say this? Convicted enough. I don't like the word convicted. Committed, maybe. Enough so that you are not, sort of playing loosey-goosey. Like, you've got to be in. You have to be in, but and this is my path. This is my path right now. I'm working on this, where I can be there with dialing down the confrontation, because we have so much confrontation in our society, and if you get into confrontation, it's almost a cliche. Really, it is almost a cliche. So that in and of itself should get people, how we approach things. Doesn't mean you don't lose energy, doesn't mean you don't lose passion. And if you have to, you wouldn't back down from a confrontation if you needed to really, make something happen. That's a whole different level of about much wider issues, tying into a number of hot button topics and cultural anxieties. I just read this, I'll read it again. In America, in particular, conservatives have used the Alfie Evans case as a rallying cry to condemn socialized medicine and government intervention more broadly. Former Representative Joe Walsh, Republican, Illinois, for example, tweeted that the Evans case showed why Americans need AR-15 rifles. There's probably some truth to that. A number of Catholics have also used the case to weigh in on what they see as a secular culture of death. Absolutely. Caused in part by moral indifference about abortion. I think that there's a case to be made for that, and I think there is a huge moral indifference about abortion. Abortion is a really, really big deal. It's a huge deal. And as we've seen, it's become an even bigger deal when they profit off of it. Ultimately, however, the Evans case was about who gets to decide what the best interest of a child really is. With the view of the state and the view of the child's parents are at odds, who gets to have the final say? The answer ties into wider questions about medical ethics, what it means for a life to be not worth living, and about popular trust or lack thereof in the UK's National Health Service. A paradigmatic example of both the pros and cons of socialized medicine. The question at stake in the Alfie Evans story, in other words, isn't just should we let the state decide, it's do we trust the state at all? And I'll leave you with that question to ponder. I'm sure many of you have your own answers already formulated. Well, in the spirit of trying to get out of here in a reasonable amount of time, I think I've covered today's topics. We're going to skip the time tunnel today because I want to keep moving things along Monday through Friday at a reasonable clip and not overload you with information, saturation, and personal opinion, and the convergence of the two, but just enough to get you going and out into the world. And we talked about a number of pretty heavy topics, but at the end of the day, you need to be informed. You got to know what's going on out there. And as it relates to what's going on in there, as above, so below, as without, so within. And again, I can't stress this enough. These are really incredible times to be living in. There's a lot that we can learn from them. Personally, with our own personal theater of revelation inside of ourselves and out there in the world as well. We have not ever been in this part of the historical universe, ever. And you have a front row seat. Take advantage of it. Be courageous. And you know what to do. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step on what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. Let me just check the chat room real quick there. There's Judy. Live your life without resistance, whatever prefers that not to happen. What we resist persists. There's a lot of truth to that. Absolutely. All right. I'm going to get on out of here. 40 minutes. Not bad. Not bad at all. Jasper, what do you think? 40 minutes. Absolutely. Okay. Here we go. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame.
You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.